Welcome to Supply Chain Management, Module 2, Strategic Sourcing. This is the second part. Here we will be discussing on identifying the core processes and make versus buy decision. This PPT has been prepared by referring many resources exclusively for the purpose of education. I have referred many internet resources, notes, textbooks as well while preparing this PPT. Let us understand what you mean by identifying core processes. The decision to identify selected process as core process and focus on improving those can have a significant impact on the performance of a firm. In my previous part of second module, I have stressed upon we need to do what we are best at. I had taken the example of Dell doing the job of innovation and improving the technology, HCL doing the job of servicing and logistics. This is what is required. Okay, any company cannot be expert in everything. We need to identify what our strength is and what we are good at, what we are best at, and it's better that we do that. That is what says identifying the core process. In order to select the process as core process and focus on improving those can have a significant impact. How it can have a significant impact on the performance of a firm? First of all, I need to take a decision whether it will be a short-term gain or a long-term gain for me. It's not that I need to stay in the market for 6 months or 1 year. I need to be there in the market for 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. This is what is expected. The mere decision to focus the resources on core activities to match capabilities with the best-in-class performance is not enough. Firms must strive to be the best in the world in that specific area. It's not that I have taken one of the best decisions, I have managed my resources or the core activities so that the performance is the best. I am producing one of the best car in this class, so that is not sufficient. If you want to stay in the market for a long time, if you want to sustain the competition, we need to think something else. Here we come across a very wonderful strategy in marketing called as blue ocean versus red ocean strategy. Red ocean strategy says you make the best product, high quality product, you try to stay in the market. That is what red ocean strategy says. Whereas blue ocean strategy says you create a market for yourself. Don't try to compete in the market which is already existing. Don't try to sell the vegetable in a market where many vendors are there who are already selling the vegetables. Don't claim that your vegetables are better than those vegetables. You create a market wherein people will say that vegetables are not necessary, I will purchase your product. You find a product which can replace vegetables. That is called as blue ocean technology. One example I can quote you is Tesla. Tesla have created a blue ocean technology. They did not go with the traditional automobile sector because there were many players. In order to compete with them, it's very difficult. GM started in India, but they had to close their firm in India. Ford did the same thing. Why? It's very difficult to stay in the competition with the rising expenses and all those things. Instead, you create a market for yourself. Tesla have done that. Tesla have created a market for themselves, and there are no players at all in their sector. They are the only one in that sector. That's what we term it as blue ocean technology. electric vehicles, automatic vehicles. This is what they have created. So this is what we need to do. If you want to stay in the competition, we need to avoid competition at all. Create a market so that no competitors at all in your surroundings. This is what is necessary. The first step for a firm to develop the capability to distinguish between core activities and the commodity activities. Core activities are those which can be done in-house. Commodity activities are those which can be outsourced. For example, Toyota, its strength is assembly line. Do it in-house. So what they do, as I've already said, Keiretsu, they follow the principle of Keiretsu, and they have more than 120 companies under their umbrella, and they get the product as per their requirement. They are not just suppliers, they are the partners. And Toyota is very good. They know that their strength is assembling, they do that. HCL strength is logistics and managing supply chain. Do that. Do the services. Concentrate on that. Let me quote Flextronics CEO Michael Marks. Without Flextronics, there would be no Xbox. Only the idea of it. Microsoft has a ton of money, but they had to build factories. They wouldn't have done this project. If guys like us did not exist, guys like Microsoft wouldn't do a hardware product. The risk would be too high. Look at the confidence. Look at the confidence at which he speaks. So he very clearly says, Microsoft Xbox, if it has to exist, it is because of Flextronics. Microsoft cannot do it on their own because Microsoft is good in software. They are not good in hardware. So Xbox became prominent not because Microsoft did it. Microsoft just had a brand name in it. So they associated with Flextronics and came up with one of the top products in video games. Xbox is a household name. If you ask any kid, yeah, they know about Xbox. Let's discuss the business process route. See, for any firm, normally if they want to do the business or whatever it is, normally 3 core and high level business process that includes customer relationship, product innovation and supply chain management. These are the 3 core high level process that any firm need to manage. Within the identified core business process, firms can examine each of the activities and probably outsource those activities that are of the commodity type. See, if you feel that this activity can be done in-house, do it in-house. This activity can be done or can be outsourced than doing it in-house at a cost-effective manner, outsource it. That is what is required. Within supply chain, firms might outsource the warehousing or transportation function. That also happens many times. See, many companies you might have seen manufactured by ABC, marketed by XYZ. That's a common thing. Many people manufacture, but they do not have the logistic support, and the transportation expenses will be too high for them to bear. That's why what do? They outsource the marketing job to someone else who are good in marketing. In that way, what do? They also gain, this marketing company will also gain. Core process retained within the company must be strategic from the business point of view. When you retain a process as core process, and when you start doing that in-house, you must ensure that it is strategic from a business point of view. What do you mean by strategic? Has to make sure that in the entire chain, you have the best technology. Whatever you are doing, you are number one in it. You are none to anybody else. You are the number one in that. So when you say that you are the number one, you are second to none, then it gives some strength to you. You will still have the major role to play. You are the major player in that chain. That is how you can still continue to be the lead player in that particular line of products, even though you have outsourced some of the activities. Next comes the product architecture route. In the product architecture approach, the focus is on the subsystems and the components, and make or buy decisions are made at that level. It's not at the strategic level, it's at a subsystem level. For example, an engine subsystem can be divided into many components like power cylinder, fuel system, engine electronics, etc. A laptop or a computer can be divided into subsystems such as processors, hard disks, RAMs, and many things like that. In a product, first the subsystems are classified as strategic or non-strategic. In the business architecture route, what do? The subsystems are also divided as strategic or non-strategic. A subsystem is strategic if it involves a little bit high-end technology, little bit of those technologies which you have mastered over time, which no others are following, which no others can follow, because you are an expert in that. Such subsystems can be continued as in-house. If a subsystem is generally available, quite common with everybody, there is no point in doing that. You better outsource it. Okay, so when you say that your subsystem are strategic, you have to ensure that it has some high value towards the customer, and it can significantly impact the performance of the product, and your product is recognized because of that particular subsystem. Retain that in-house, don't outsource it. By keeping these strategic subsystems internal, a firm can ensure that it can offer differentiated products and can avoid being commoditized. Mileage, if mileage is your USP, have the subsystem which aids in giving better mileage in-house. Don't outsource it. It could be the carburetor, or it could be the twin plug system, DTSI, it could be. Whatever you are doing, if it is related to your USP, retain it in-house. Further, within a subsystem, the same kind of analysis has to be done for all major components. Don't stop there. Within the subsystem, keep on identifying strategic and non-strategic items. All those components where the firm is technologically ahead, keep it in-house. Which you feel that this technology, this subsystem has a great impact on the product. Customers see the product because of this particular subsystem. Always retain that with you. This is the decision I have to take. See, first of all, if I want to construct a product architecture, first thing that you need to do, subsystem sourcing decision. How are we going to differentiate our product in customers' eyes? Non-strategic subsystems. That means they are not that important for a customer. They do not see this particular subsystem as a uniqueness in your product. Okay, leave it, outsource it. If they see it as a unique subsystem in your product, then don't outsource it. We need to distinctively good at designing and making that, then form a family of such components and again check whether that family of subcomponents are strategic or not. If you still feel that okay, people can do that, people are doing that, it's not very unique, even though it passed the first level, In the second level, I do not see any uniqueness in that. Better go for commodity outsourcing. Okay, if you feel that they are strategic, they are unique, they have a long term impact on your product because it's strategic, then do it in house. To be again, you check for which each family is investment justified. Do we have the resources and time? This is the third level of decision that you need to take. First, subsystem sourcing. Second one, whether the family is strategic or not. Third one, whether you have the resources and whether you can withstand that investment. Are you strong enough? Then go with in-house manufacturing. If you feel that no, it's not possible, I don't have that, it's better you outsource. Many bakeries do that. They do not have the facility to prepare the bakery products. What do? They procure it from a bigger bakery at a wholesale price. Of course, the profit level is less, but at least they can say that they also have some products related to bakery. Customers, when they come and ask for bakery products, instead of saying no, they can sell something. This is what is necessary. Virtual corporations outsource all supply chain activities to one party or a combination of parties and just focus on brand building. Many companies are doing this. Many world-class companies are just concentrating on brand building, advertising, promotion. That's it. They are not at all doing anything on the manufacturing, supply chain, transportation, servicing. No, they are all done by outsourced companies. They just keep on doing what is required for improving the brand image, branding. Architectural knowledge is the intimately detailed and specialized power of translation required to capture customer requirements and reproduce them in the language of subsystem performance specification. I have to very clearly say, because of this subsystem, my product performs in a special way. A firm might not produce the engine, but it may control its design and manufacturing by remaining the expert in architectural knowledge. I have some uniqueness in the design. Nobody can copy that. Bajaj was doing that with DTSI. Okay, that is digital ignition. Instead of using the cams, they started using the digital ignition, and that became their USP, and they retained it with them. They did not reveal to anyone else, but now of course it's available. Even if a firm outsources supply chain management, it still has to keep the architectural knowledge of the impact of internal and external environments on market demand and supply risk. Just for the reason you have given everything to someone else, you cannot keep mum. You have to keep on observing what customers are doing, what is happening to demand, what is happening to supply, how the world is changing, how the customers are changing, what is the new trend now. All those things must be kept in mind by the parent company. Example of GE in CT scanning, they are pioneers. CT scanning machines, no one else. I can say that as of now, GE is in the blue ocean as of now. X-rays and other things, yes, they are doing. Many companies are doing. Scanray in Mysore, they are doing that. Many such companies are doing that. So there is no point in doing the same thing. Of course, they are doing little bit costly. Many others have copied the technology and they are doing it at a cheaper price. Ventilators, at one point of time GE had the best ventilator, but nowadays many local players are doing. GE cannot compete at that pricing. It's very difficult for them. As a result, what they have done, they have concentrated, they have understood CT scanning is their core process. So they are concentrating more on CT scanning. And even Patanjali, what do? They, for many people, they just do the marketing job. Many others manufacture and hand it over to Patanjali. Patanjali has a brand name. They are creating the brand. That's all. They are not manufacturing. Do you think they will be manufacturing the cow dung soap and all those things? No. To some extent they may be manufacturing, but they will be. Others will procure and give it to Patanjali. Patanjali just puts their brand name and sells it in the market because Patanjali has created a niche for itself. Make versus buy, this is what we have been discussing till now, whether I need to outsource or whether I have to do it in-house. The decision of a firm to perform its activities internally or get those activities done from an independent firm is known as make versus buy. It's referred to an act of doing cost benefit, whether I need to decide whether doing in-house is cost effective or subcontracting is cost effective. If it is better to do it in-house, because I can do it easily, I can control it easily. If you feel better, do it in-house. And if you feel that it's too much of difficulty, controlling would be very difficult, I don't have the, first of all, I don't have the technology, I don't have the human resource, I don't have the facilities, then better hand it over to someone else. Many people do that. Okay, so even this one, Kennametal, a German tool manufacturing company, machine tool, that's tool manufacturing company, they wanted to start in India. At that point of time, Vidya was number one in India and it had a brand name. Kennametal purchased it, that's all. So it's now Kennametal Vidya now. That's it. So such mergers keep on happening. Vodafone and Idea merger. They merged with each other and came up with V. That's it. So such things are quite common. They merge with each other so that there is no need for purchasing from someone else because I can continue to manufacture. What happens with whether to buy or whether to do it in-house? There are relative advantages and disadvantages. Control would be better if I do it in-house, but it would be very difficult for me to control if I have outsourced it. But if I outsource it, what will happen? If this, I have the flexibility to change the customer, or I can ask them to produce more, I can select one more supplier. I have this variety of decisions that I can make, but that's not the case when I am doing it in-house. And again, the make or buy decisions are done at strategic and operational level. The increased existence of the firm that utilize the concept of lean manufacturing has prompted an increase in outsourcing. I do not want to manufacture and keep bulk of products, bulk of inventory. That is too costly for me. It is not at all conducive. It's not at all profitable. That's why what I prefer is that I prefer outsourcing. That's what I said. Toyota has more than 120 companies under its umbrella and everything is outsourced. Only assembling is done at Toyota Bidadi plant. The majority of the make or buy decision are made on the basis of price, but this is not the only criteria. Okay, see, of course price is a decision, I do agree, because companies do the business because they want to reduce the cost and maximize their profit, right? When that is the intention, obviously what will happen, they need to look at the price, but price is not the only criteria. Many other criteria are like, see, whether the product, whether the raw material is available or not, that is another decision. Whether human resource, skilled human resource is available or not, whether the younger workforce is available or not. Many players will come into picture while taking this make or buy decision. Traditionally, firms believe that everything should be done internally unless there is a compelling logic in favor of outsourcing. That was the thing. If you remember, in my first chapter, I had told you Ford was doing the job of everything, right from iron ore till manufacturing of car. They were doing everything, but later they have realized that that's not the right way. Now perhaps we are on the other extreme with our discussion on the virtual corporations, wherein a firm starts the assumption that they give out everything, even the assembly, they just put their label. Manufacturing is not there, even the product is wrapped also, and it is just sold under the brand name of ABC. I had given you the example of Camco doing Nestle's chocolates. Similarly, Patanjali, what is it doing? It's also doing the same thing. They just put the brand name of a product done by some other company. So this is at the other extreme end. Voltas, another example. Voltas by Tata. Nothing. They are not at all doing anything else. They just put the Voltas brand name. That's it. And sold in the market under the brand name Voltas. Tata will be doing it for Voltas. Titan, again, by Tata. Do you think Tata has anything to do with the watch manufacturing? No. It's by Tata, over. That brand name. Tata will build that brand name. Right? So, this is how the business run. This is the diagram that indicates everywhere it is situated. See here, there is a huge network. People move here, people move there, and the entire world is it's a village now. That's why we use the term global village. Now let us discuss what market versus hierarchy is. Market versus hierarchy is nothing but make versus buy decision. In economics term or economics literature, I use the word market versus hierarchy. So here the key issue is to whether I should, again the same decision, whether I follow an internal strategic plans, or I outsource it to someone else in order to maximize the level of service given to customer. So in hierarchical form, when I say hierarchical form, it's that I am doing internally. So everything is dependent on the internal supplier, and innovations done at the parent company, and whatever the measures I am trying to reduce the cost or improve the services, everything has to be done internally. The main problem with hierarchical form is that people inside the company may not support me. If I say that I am changing the technology, you also need to update. They may feel that I am old enough to follow that technology. I am not interested. What will we do? Can we remove them from the company? No, it's not that easy. Trade unions have their own role to play over here. See, that's why hierarchical form, the innovations may not happen, but the control may be better. When it comes to market mechanism, control may not be there, but innovations can be better, because the supplier firm may attract the new customers or manufacturers, in the sense to purchase their product. They may say that I am producing this product with a new technology, and the quality is better than the old product, so why don't you choose? So obviously the manufacturer will get a better product. And if the supplier does not change the technology, doesn't come up with if they do not come up with a better product, the manufacturer has all liberty and flexibility to change the supplier. This is another disadvantage of hierarchical form. In hierarchical form, you cannot do that. You cannot change the supplier. Whereas market mechanism, you can change the supplier. And as a result, what happens? The supplier gets motivated to innovate, use the new technology, and attract the new customer, attract the new buyer. So this is the advantage of market mechanism. Factors influencing make or buy decision: volume of production. If the volume of production is high, go with make. If it is low, go for buy. Cost analysis, break-even analysis. I do the break-even analysis. I will take an example later to explain you about how make or buy is done. Next is utilization of the production capacity. The organizations which has created large production capacity better make. They have already created the facility which can go up to 5,000 units per month, and you are not even able to sell 1,000 units per month. When that is the case, why do you go for outsourcing? Better do it in house. Integration of the production system. The vertical integration favors the make decision, whereas the horizontal integration favors the buy decision. If vertical integration is, I have a vertical structure and there is a better understanding, good understanding among all the departments, better go for make decision. If there is no such things, you better go for buy decision. Availability of manpower. If I have abundant manpower available, go for make. Scarce manpower, go for buy. Secrecy or protection of patent rights, you need to protect that, go for make. And it's available everywhere, go for buy. Fixed cost, if the fixed cost is too high and you cannot bear it, go for buy. Fixed cost is low and you can sustain that, go for make. Availability of competent suppliers or vendors. If there are no suppliers or vendors for this particular part, there is no alternative but you have to make. If they are available and they are the experts in that field, why do you trouble yourself? Go for buy. Quality and reliability of vendors, that is another thing. Whether they are supplying you at the way in which you wanted the product. If they are good in that, go for buy. If they are not good in that, go for make. This is the make versus buy decision. Various costs associated with make or buy decision. See, cost for making a product in-house: production cost, labor cost, monitoring cost, storage requirement cost, waste product disposal. Everything is your headache. And if your product is related to environment, you have to take all the required permission from the environmental board, from the pollution control board. It's too difficult. Instead, you purchase it, it's better. There are no such headaches. Whereas buy has its own costs: product purchase cost, sales tax cost, shipping cost, inventory holding, ordering. All these things will be has to be borne by you. Whereas in making, those things are not there. Everything is done by you. Shipping cost, sales tax, all those things you need not have to pay anywhere, because you are manufacturing and selling it to the distribution center directly. You are not procuring it somewhere else which is 1,000 kilometers away, and for that you have to bear all these expenses. Let me take an example of how we take the decision of make or buy in the actual scenario. Okay, cost is one of the major criteria or major parameters that will come into picture when I want to make a decision of make versus buy. In this example, this firm has invested $250,000 on building the factory and purchasing the equipment, and in order to produce one unit, it has to spend $10. It has already spent $250,000 on the equipments and the building. In addition, it also need to spend $10 for each part, like running cost. That's what we term it as variable cost, like electrical expenses, labor costs, etc. However, it can purchase it from a supplier who can supply the part at $15. Okay. Now I have to take a decision whether I need to make a part that costs me 10 per each, or I can go for purchasing a part that cost me 15 per part. Okay. Now I have a concept called as break-even analysis, wherein at break-even point making will be equal to buying. Okay, so this is the formula wherein the total cost of making is equal to total cost of purchasing. Okay, what is the total cost of making? $250,000, that is the total fixed cost, that is the cost for equipment and the factory, plus $10 per part multiplied by Q. Q is the number of parts. That should be equal to $15 per part into number of parts that I am purchasing from the vendor. So when I simplify that, ultimately I get Q as 50,000. What does that mean? At BEP, Q is 50,000. What is at BEP? See, let me plot the graph. So this is the line of make. This is the fixed cost. This is the cost versus quantity. Okay. This is the make line and this is the buy line, B. I will call it as B, and this is Q, break even point. What is Q here? 50,000. Okay. This is the BEP, break even point. Q is the BEP. This is 50,000. If I produce anything less than 50,000, say somewhere here, I move up, I reach this spot here, and I will be ending up lesser cost for buy. So my decision would be to buy from the supplier. If I produce more than Q, if my production requirement is more than Q, say 60,000, I will raise a vertical line here, and my cost of the total cost that I spend would be lesser for make. In that case, I make the part. So this is a very simple decision based on the cost criteria. So if I want to minimize the cost and if my production level is less than BEP, I go with buy, and if my production level is more than BEP, I go with make. So this is how I arrive at the decision using the concept of break-even analysis. Break even. So at BEP you are breaking even. Whether you are making or buying, costs are equal. That is the meaning of break even. There is one more example here, and it's similar to this. Again, the total cost is 22.8x and the total cost for buying 2.8x. For 2.8 is the cost per product. This is the total cost 10,000 plus 1.5. This is the one make charge. So at BEP, cost from this should be equal to cost from this. That means make should be equal to buy. That is the assumption at BEP, break even point. So I equate and say 7693. That is the total. Here also I plot the curve, similar curve. So this is make, sorry, this is buy and this is make. Okay, and this is Q. Here it is X. Okay, Q or break even, that is 7693. 7693. So if anything less than this, go with by. If it is more than this, go with M. This is the simple decision I have to make in make or buy decision making. And break-even analysis, this is called as the break-even analysis, that will help me to arrive at the decision. Integrative framework, this is the framework of market versus hierarchy. To resolve the make versus buy issue, a firm has to look at the benefits as well as the costs involved. See, I will calculate this portion first. What is this portion? Additional cost due to lower economies of scale. So economies of scale are very less, so I need to spend more, plus agency cost of internal control and coordination, lot many headaches. So controlling the people, repairing the machine, all those things, I add them together and check whether it is less than the transaction cost for procuring it from the market. So if it is less, okay, that is this portion is in-house, this is outsourcing. If the total cost that I incur is less than in-house, go with make. Yes, if it is less, go with make. No, it is not. It's not less, it is more. Go with buy. This is a very simple decision that I have to make. This framework will help me to arrive at this decision. Okay, so whether the total cost of making it internally is cheaper than the total transaction cost of procuring it from the outside market. Simple. I prepare masala dosa. If preparing masala dosa is cheaper here, prepare it in the house. If it is costlier than the hotel's masala dosa, go to hotel and eat. That's all. Okay. Make versus buy continuum. What is this? Till now we have discussed make an input or buy an input using the market, and vertical integration versus market, where the buyer has an arm's length relationship with the supplier. See, suppose as a buyer, as a manufacturer, I need not have to worry too much about these sub products or the subsystems. They are easily available for me. Why should I be worried about? The best example I can tell you as of now is how Zomato and Swiggy clicked. This is the reason. When I can get variety of dishes, variety of food at the smallest quantity. You might have seen an advertisement wherein he orders for one jamun and Swiggy supplies it, right? So can you really prepare one jamun so easily at home? It's very difficult, very difficult. So if you really wanted just one jamun, why do you manufacture? Why do you prepare it at home? Get it from, order it at Swiggy. You need not have to even go to a hotel. Earlier people used to go to hotel. So these old people, they used to get controlled by the other members of the family, because you have one or the other, either diabetes or blood pressure. You don't go outside, you will eat outside. They used to control. They never used to prepare anything at home. That's why what these people used to do, go for walking, telling that my health is important. I will walk 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, go to a hotel there, eat whatever they want to eat, come back home. So this is what they were doing. Now Swiggy has solved that problem also. You need not have to even go outside, stay at home, and the food whatever you have ordered will come to you. Information technology has helped me. I have the mobile at in my hand, and if I have mobile in my hand, the whole world is in my hand. So order it online. I need not have to even do a call. Silently I will be doing the every job, and nobody knows that I have ordered for something. So this is how the information technology has helped me to move towards buy than make. Two more important alternatives we will discuss. Tapered integration, where a firm both makes and buys an input. That means both are given equal importance. I will do as much as possible in-house, and if I cannot meet the requirement of the customer, I will get it from outside. That is another way. That is what is tapered integration. So, for example, Siri Gramodyoga, that cooperative society at Dharmasthala, they have a self-sufficient factory, but still many times it so happens, if sudden order comes from outside, what do? They get it from outside. They order it to some of the tailors locally, local tailors or some other tailors which they know, and get from them. And Toyota is moving slowly from Denso to their own. Denso used to supply the all the electronic parts 100%. The supplier, the electronics parts were supplied by Denso, but now Toyota has started moving slowly from Denso to in-house. So these are some of the examples wherein I do some in-house and get some from outside. Same product. It's not that I am doing the subsystem here. No, I am doing the entire part here. I am getting the entire part from outside. This is what mean by tapered integration. Collaborative in relationship, Kiretsu have been telling this many a times. Just now I gave you the example of Kennametal Vidya. Okay, and these people, what do? They outrightly purchase the company. They go with a joint venture. Okay, so this is a very simple example of collaborative relationship. There is no point in starting the new business here. They have an established business. Start with it. So this is how Japanese companies have excelled in the business. Okay, they normally do not start their own company in when they move to other countries. They purchase the company which are very well established there and start the business. Just now I came to know that Byju's has purchased Akash tuition center for nearly 1 billion rupees. It's a very huge amount. Akash is a part of Byju's now. So this is called as collaborative relationship. This is the continuum. See, if the supplier is available at arm's length, very easily available, better go with buy. And if you want to move towards make, start making towards short-term contracts, then long-term contracts, then equity alliances, then JVs, that is joint ventures, and then parent subsidiary relationship, and finally perform activities in-house. This is how you can move towards make. Similarly, if you are already making, you go in the reverse direction, and if everything is available at arm's length, it's better that you purchase. There is no point in making the things which are very difficult for you to make. This is what is necessary in the corporate world. Most of the companies, they always prefer to buy. Hardly they make it. I have given you innumerable examples in order to make you understand what is make versus buy decision. I also have explained some of the numerical examples wherein the cost effectiveness will be considered to arrive at the decision of make versus buy. Thank you.